Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome back to another episode of Soldiers Talk the Podcast. I'm your host, Staff Sergeant McPherson, and on this show we discuss military topics with current and prior service members. Today I have a special guest with me. I have PFC Younker. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Sergeant. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Kind of go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
So I'm PFC Younker. I've been in the Army for about a year now. My first duty station, Fort Bragg. I'm 20 years old and just willing to soak up all the information I can.
Okay, so where are you actually from?
So I was born in Oregon, just a small town called Lebanon. But I moved to Washington when I was about 13, and I lived with my dad until I joined the Army.
Okay, so kind of explain the environment to where you grew up, like, and how you grew up.
So it was kind of a backwoods town, so like there wasn't a lot of, for me at least, I didn't have a lot of like authority. So like I lived with my mom, and she was a loving and caring mother. Like I loved her to death, but I didn't have a lot of like rules, so I just kind of had like a very um like unrestricted childhood. Like I didn't go to school a lot. Uh, I didn't have my shit together a lot of the time. But when I moved with my dad, it was a lot different. He kind of showed me like work ethic, and like how to be like an actual adult. So and like all of it changed, which was really nice. It was for the better.
Okay, so what about like in high school, middle school? Like, did you play any sports, anything like that?
Um, I never really played much. I did actually do basketball for through seventh and eighth grade. Through high school though, I just never really wanted to. I did like to skateboard a lot though. That was like my biggest hobby. It still is now. I really enjoy longboarding.
Okay, so when you was in high school, like, did any like, how did you find out about the military? Like, like what, like, did you have any resources on like
Yeah. So
anything?
so that was actually kind of funny because I had so many friends. Like my whole friend group actually really wanted to join. Like I had like 5 or 6 different friends that were like super avid about joining the army or the Marines, and um I'm the only one that did. And I actually wasn't really much into it during high school. I joined 2 years after because I don't know, it just kind of snapped, and I thought it would be an amazing idea. But yeah, it was more through like friends and whatnot that I really did.
Okay, so kind of explain like what, cause you said you didn't join fresh out of high school, so kind of explain like what eventually made you make that decision.
So I was living on my own for like I'd say like 3 or 4 years, like up until this point. So I was like sophomore year when I moved out of my dad's house. Uh, and it just kind of like hit me. Like at that point, I had a fiance, or I was about to get married, and my job wasn't really well. Like it was good. It was paying the bills, but it wasn't what I wanted, and it just kind of snapped because I was like, there's this job, that brings income. It gives me the resources I want to become a EMT and a paramedic. So I just decided, like, let's just go down to the recruiter's office, see what it can do for me. It can help, it gives good medical for like my wife at the time. So it really just like all the benefits kind of just like, really sunk in and kind of pushed me to go and give it a shot.
Okay, so what was your initial what what was the initial MOS that you chose?
I originally chose I wanted to be a tank mechanic, but didn't have a high enough ASVAB, so I was a HVAC mechanic. Went to MEPS, and they decided that, well, they didn't decide. I'm colorblind with green and red, so they kind of told me, we don't want you messing with wires. So EAD was out of the question too. So they pretty much said, well, you don't need to see, what color blood is. So if you want to be a, you know, a combat medic, you can work on people instead of machines. So I was like, well, it was like my second choice to like fully switch, like MOS, types, like not even being a mechanic. So, uh, I mean, I have another buddy now that's a medic as well, and we've talked about it, and same with him. He didn't want to be a medic as well, but it's honestly like the best MOS that I personally would have chose. Like it's very rewarding.
Okay, so you went in there and chose this exactly MOS, right?
Yeah, I chose. Well, originally I chose I think it was like 98 alpha, but then they then I they narrowed down my choices because I was colorblind, and I chose 68 whiskey.
Okay. Uh, so 6A whiskey. So where did you go to basic training at?
I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Very cold,
Oh, it was cold.
very windy. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was horrible.
Okay, so being that, so what was your like most memorable time at basic training?
Oh man. Probably just up in the barracks, like it's just all like us and like all the boys, after like a really long shitty day at the range or something, and we just like group up and have like a wrestling match, or we're doing like group PT or just fucking around, like just I don't know, just the enjoyment of like we're all in it together, and it's not us versus drill sergeants, but that's kind of how it feels at like the first like 2 months there. So it was just kind of like the group aspect of like you kind of got to be a family even if you don't like each other. It kind of like really, I don't know, it was comforting to me.
Okay, so what about the drill sergeant? So like, what about memorable times? Like, you don't have no memorable things about like what happened, like the drill sergeants, or like something that you learned, or
Oh, I don't know, I loved them. They were there was one in particular, Drill Sergeant Batista. He was very he didn't like to smoke you. Like he would, but like if it came down to it, but he would more just scold you and tell you what you did wrong, and be like, if you fuck up again, like, you will get smoked. But like he was just a funny guy. Like he knew how to, like, not even on purpose. Like he just had that thing with him. But one time, like what made him memorable to me was like how he jokes around. Like we were on the bus to the range, and it was me and my buddy Rushing were talking, and he turns around and just makes some like remark on my nose, and turns back around, and I don't know, just like those little jabs that are just kind of like, I don't know. I feel like drill sergeants are just like mean comedians, and it's just like it's great. I love it.
okay, so what about AIT? So what you got? How long y'all spend at AIT?
So I spent 6 months there. I actually got recycled from Alpha Company to Charlie, but usually it's 4, because there's the 2 phases there. There's the EMT phase and then whiskey phase, which is just like different, what you learn differently, like between like civilian side and military side of medical.
Okay, and you say you got recycled.
I did, yeah. So I was in Alpha Company at first, but I failed EMT phase. I failed the final test, and then they recycled me to Charlie.
Okay, so is it pretty hard? Like,
It's, I don't know. It's hard, but it's not like, it's just kind of. I feel like it's from person to person, because I felt like I did really good. I did really good up until the last test, and then I couldn't do it. It's honestly harder than, like, there's a test after that. It's more like the state test to get your certificate, but it's harder than that one even. So I don't know. Not a lot of people fail it. It's honestly it's easy if you put in like the effort and you have the heart for it.
okay, so far as like once you got done with AIT, so what was your first duty station?
Oh, it was here. Uh, yeah, just 44th.
Okay, so basically when you got here, so did you, like I'm saying, did you like implement it, like did you get in the job to where you was actually using some of the skills you learned at AIT?
Sadly, no. I went straight to the orderly room here, and They've tried actually. I've done a couple like flu rodeos, so I've given like probably a couple hundred shots, which isn't bad. Like it's fun, but I figured I'd be doing more on the aspect of maybe um like working in like the clinic or working down at the hospital, which I mean I enjoy my job and the people I work with, but it's definitely not what I expected.
Okay, yeah. So I know a lot. I know we kind of like overstrength here. So
Yeah,
uh, kind of 6 8 whiskeys does like in a medical. I feel like in the medical brigade, they can be tasked to do anything. So most people, everybody, most of the people here are medics. So they kind of like put them to where like they can cross train and be kind of like do everything.
it's true. Yeah, I didn't even know half the people here were medics because half the time I don't even see them doing what they're supposed to be doing. I'll be doing something else like training somebody how to, like file paperwork, and then it'll just like come up in conversation. It's just weird to me.
So that being said, as far as you got any regrets or anything, as far as your MOS or joining the army in general?
I will say I do regret getting married. It's not so much with the military, in that aspect, but it did like affect a lot, like going through, because it was just it was hard to manage AIT with a divorce at the same time. So it was just hard to balance, but I don't regret the army at all. I think it's changed me honestly for the better. Like it's done a lot for me in that aspect. Like just kind of changed me as a person, but not in a bad way. So
Okay, so far as leadership, so when you came from AIT, what about leadership? Like, did was you assigned to like under anyone like far as your supervisor or direct line leadership?
like when I got here, um, not right off the bat. It was kind of bouncing around because people were leaving the office and like kind of going like PCSing or ETSing. Uh, I think the first line I had was Staff Sergeant Lee, which I think he's in another company now, but he's no, he was a really good first line for me. He kind of like showed me like even though he wasn't here very long, maybe just a few months, but he showed me like the difference for like between like I don't want to say right and wrong, but like how to go about things with like higher ups because we work with a lot of sergeant first classes and above, and any like captains and above. So it's like he taught me how to like between like rights and wrong with that, and then also when not to take shit, which like you also go about it respectfully, but it like in more so like don't be like a yes man all the time, which it was like you don't use very much here but it's still really nice. Like he was a very good. I felt like I learned a lot from him in the time he was here.
Okay, so in your own words, what are some good attributes that you think a leader should have?
I think they should be. I think they should be understanding, but in that sense, they should also be like you should still get punished for what you do wrong, like sugar in the stick. I can't think of the words right now, but I think they should have a little bit of the sugar and a little bit of the stick when you do when you do fuck up and you know it. Uh, I think it's good that they're charismatic because it makes you relate to your leader maybe a little bit a little bit better, and making sure that like you have a bond rather than just being like your boss and whatnot. So I just it's nice to have at least when you have something to talk about sometimes when like just shoot the shit, so it kind of like it creates a bond there.
Okay, so with that being your basically what you think a leader is, those far as the attributes. Okay, so those attributes that you feel that a leadership should have, right? Okay, so what about the goals so far? So right now, so talk about kind of like some things that you want to get accomplished in, like short term, long term.
Short term, uh I want to actually go and get my paramedics license here pretty soon. Uh, like as in like short term, like a year. I would like to get enrolled in a couple months, if like at the very latest. Uh, get that over with. Maybe go to flight school. Long term, I think I don't know if the army will be like my career path forever, but I think in a couple years I'll probably get out after I've like served my time and done. That sounds like I'm in prison, but like like served my like my 4 years, maybe do 8, and get more experience out of it, and then I would like to work for a private company, and then move somewhere west, like on the west coast somewhere. I think that's my long term goal is to kind of settle down somewhere over there with a comfy job that I enjoy doing.
Okay, there you guys go. So you guys have met PFC Younker. Basically the rundown on who he is. Anything you want to leave the soldiers with? Any advice? Any closing remarks?
Something I've learned, like just in like 44th here, is just soak up as much as you can. Like even if it's how to file paperwork, like it helps. Everything helps because you'll learn it. You'll need to use it eventually. But I think that's my tip.
Okay. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you guys follow the podcast on Soldiers Talk the Podcast on Instagram. Make sure you guys listen to the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This has been another episode of Soldiers Talk the Podcast, and I'll see you guys at formation.